So this is a piece of historical fiction set here in Detroit in the summer of 1976. And for those of you who may not remember, there was a guy. This guy transcended sport. He was a baseball player. He played briefly for the Detroit Tigers. His rookie season was 1976. His name was Mark Fidrich, and they called him the Bird. That was his nickname because one of his coaches in the minor leagues thought that he resembled Big Bird from Sesame Street. And Mark the Bird Fidrich kind of transcended sport. He was so good for one magical season before he blew out his arm. They put him not only on the cover of Sports Illustrated, along with Big Bird, his namesake from Sesame Street, they also put the Bird on the cover of Rolling Stone. So the Bird was like a household name. For one summer, everybody in America, you couldn't miss seeing this guy on TV or on the radio or in the newspaper. And then, after that one magic season, his rookie year of 1976, he was 21 years old. He was out of baseball a short time later, having thrown so much, his arm was basically dead. But they called him the Bird, and in 1976, the Bird was the word. And I should add that one of the things that endeared him to his fans, both baseball fans and non-baseball fans, was he talked to the baseball. He would stand on a pitcher's mound right down the street here on Michigan Avenue, Michigan Trumbull, the site of Tiger Stadium, and he would talk to the ball. He was really talking to himself, but everyone thought he was talking to the ball. Stay low, ball. Go down, go up. Stay on the ground. Don't leave the ballpark. And for that one magic season, it all worked for him. And so this is a story about a couple of little kids from the east side of Detroit who were riding the bus from the Morningside neighborhood where I grew up on their way down to the YMCA at Harper and Cadillac Avenue. But along the way, they had a change of plans. And so this is their story. I call it The Year of the Bird. And it all takes place on Monday, June the 28th, 1976. This was the Bird's signature game in which he and the Detroit Tigers beat the New York Yankees on national TV on Monday Night Baseball, and he really won America's hearts that night. And so this is the story of two little boys on their way to the YMCA, but along the way they take a little detour to Tiger Stadium. The two boys, one Arab, one black, hopped on board the Cadillac Harper and took their seats in back of the bus. Eddie had about a buck left in change. Pookie didn't have a dime. I should add, there's a little language in the story, sorry about that. It's the characters in there. Bus, if you've ever ridden a bus around Detroit, you overhear a lot of things. So, Pookie didn't have a dime. Gus, the dancing hot dog vendor, sat behind the driver, hunched under an invisible punch, mumbling to himself and fumbling with a rumpled lunch bag. Herbie, the dancing groundskeeper, sat across the bus from Gus, staring at his feet and dreaming of a clean sweep. To his right sat the elegant Mr. Cooper, his nose buried in the morning paper. Herbie leaned over and nudged Mr. Cooper. "Bird on the hill tonight." "Yes, sir," said Mr. Cooper. "Bird's the word." "You think it'll sell out?" "I don't know. Got my ticket yesterday." "Shit, Goose. You shouldn't have to buy no ticket." The bus rolled to a stop in front of Harpo's, and up jumped Hamtramck Ike. Mr. Cooper looked back at Herbie and said, "I used to get him free when Billy Martin was coaching." "Man, fuck Billy Martin," said Ike as he dropped his fare in the fare box. He glanced over at the boys and laughed. Excuse my language. Ike, like Mr. Cooper, was an old ball player. Said he had a cup of coffee with the Tigers. Mr. Cooper, the men all called him Goose, used to pitch for the Detroit Stars. "What's going on, Ike?" "Same shit, different day," he said. "What's new with you, Goose?" "I'm gonna see if we beat these damn Yankees tonight." "That's what I'm talking about," Ike said. "Who pitching for them motherfuckers?" "Holtzman," said Gus. Holtzman, said Ike as he turned to look at the old pugilist. Man, he ain't shit. I hit Holtzman all day. Herbie busted out laughing as Ike spun around and fanned the fence. What's happening, brother, said Ike, laughing at himself again. Just getting ready to do my thing, Herbie said. You better be ready, he said Ike, as he took a seat behind Dancing Gus. Them cameras gonna find you tonight. Pookie leaned over to Eddie and whispered, did they say the Bird's pitching tonight? I think so, Eddie said. The boys looked at each other in wide-eyed wonder. The Bird. How far does this bus go? Downtown, I guess, Eddie said. Maybe we can transfer. But to what bus, Eddie didn't know. He and his father always used to drive to Tiger Stadium in the old Ford Maverick until that fateful day in the bleachers. Eddie hadn't been back since. As the bus approached the YMCA, the boys looked at each other, but neither one rang the bell. This was their stop, but they kept on riding as the bus turned on the Cadillac Boulevard. I'm sorry, it's Cadillac Avenue. That was my mistake. As the bus turned on the Cadillac Avenue. Back at the front of the bus, Mr. Cooper pulled an apple out of his bag and glanced at the driver, but thought twice about taking a bite. He leaned forward in his seat and started tossing the apple in the air like a baseball, his long black fingers twirling it like he was Satchel Paige. Herbie stood up in the aisle to stretch his legs. Hey, Herb, Ike said, what's the Birdman going to tell the ball tonight? Herbie snatched Mr. Cooper's apple out of the air, leaned forward at the waist, and held the ripened fruit to his face. Stay low, he told the apple. Gus let out a raspy, punch-drunk laugh that emanated from his flattened nose, trying his best to forget about Ducky Dietz. Mr. Cooper laughed too and snatched his apple back. As the bus turned onto Jefferson and rumbled its way downtown, past the smokestacks and the Unaroyal plant and the shiny new Renaissance Center, Gus adjusted his high-grade hat and fastened a pin to his shirt. Ballpark Franks, it said. They plump when you cook them. The bus pulled into Cadillac Square right around 6 o'clock. First pitch still a couple hours away. Eddie and Pookie hopped off the bus and followed Gus across the street to Michigan Avenue, where the men waited to catch a transfer to Corktown. Eddie could see the light towers of Tiger Stadium looming in the distance, the same towers where Reggie Jackson hit his home run back in '71. Eddie thought back to all the times his father brought him there, to all the days they sat in the green seats behind the green bullpen, or in the green bleachers underneath the green overhang, staring out at the echoing green. Just then, Eddie saw the lights and the towers power on. The ballpark pulled at him like a magnet. Come on, Eddie said as he motioned toward the stadium. Hold up, Pookie said. How are we going to get in? We ain't got no tickets. I don't know, Eddie said. We'll think of something. Man, we don't even have money for the bus ride home. Eddie shrugged. He didn't know what to tell Pookie, and he didn't want to go home. All he knew was that the Bird was pitching tonight, and this might be their only chance to see him. Come on, Pook, Eddie pleaded. Pookie let out a sigh and started the long slog to Corktown. As the boys crossed over the loud freeway, they began to smell the smells that emanate from Tiger Stadium. The popcorn and the peanuts, the hot dogs and the beer, the cigarettes, the cigars, and the piss. Pookie trudged down toward Trumbull as Eddie picked up the pace. At 8th Street, the music took hold and they could hear the final round of the Motown sound blasting from the bars and the cars. The transfer bus caught up with the boys and coasted to a stop at 10th Street. Gus rolled out in his Bender Splendor and ambled out onto the avenue. Then came Herbie and Goose and Ike. Inside the stadium, Mark Fidrich poked his head out of the dugout and blew one last bubble as big as his boyish face. He tossed out his gum, slipped off his jacket, and began to jog headlong out onto the warning track and into the electric night, his colossal curls cascading from under his cap. Out on Trumbull Avenue, Pookie and Eddie wandered around the hallowed ground, wild-eyed and wistful and wired, studying the ushers and the turnstiles and the passageways, their eyes darting in every direction, trying to find a way to get inside the ballpark and catch a glimpse of the man they call the Bird.
Yeah.